Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Child Life Therapy again. Please do hit that like and subscribe and share if you're enjoying this content. So how are you all feeling today in a non-Meghan Markle kind of way? Is it just settling in with you now at the moment, just what's happened in the last few days, and you're kind of getting a bit more of a handle on it? I kind of been glad of the distraction of travelling myself, because that meant that I had time to not be focused on it so much and just had to get on with certain things, and it's allowed what's happened to just filter in and not affected me as much, I would say. So let's just talk about a few little things. We've had Bryan Freedman come out and make a statement now, and obviously kind of is a little bit butthurt in American terminology, and he's probably quite angry, but I still stick by the thing is, they knew they were a bit of a long shot. They knew it was going to be difficult to hold the New York Times to account. They knew some of the things that they were pushing for were quite difficult to prove, like extortion, when we can't yet prove what actually he lost or she gained, or in monetary terms, or whatever you want to call it. But what was interesting was this idea that Blake Lively, not even an idea, it's definite, that Blake Lively is due to be deposed this month. That is in the event, I guess, that she doesn't withdraw her lawsuit altogether. Which I don't really think she can do, because if she does withdraw it, then the narrative is going to switch to that, well, she never had a claim in the first place. Either she was SH'd or she wasn't. Nobody really stops when they seem to be winning, do they, unless they've got something to hide. So I guess Brian's ace in the pocket is this, that it's now his chance to depose her this month. And I think there's a suspicion in his mind, from what he said in this TMZ interview, is that she may just no-show, or she may send word that she's not attending, or she may pull a sickie, or something like that. Well, so I just had a quick look at what might happen if somebody doesn't show up for a deposition. So there can be sanctions, there can be fines, they can be compelled to appear, depending on what the judge sees it as. There can be a motion to dismiss the entire case before it, or she can be limited in what she is able to bring forth as evidence. So there are all kinds of things. If she is scared to be deposed and decides to no-show, there are all sorts of things that can come as a result of that. And I think this is what we see with narcissistic people, and how she's claimed this victory quite quickly. Is that's how narcissists work, because they take the immediate win. They're not necessarily thinking about the next step and what that will impact and what that will impact. She's going to take her wins wherever she can, and she's going to gloat about it and all of the rest of it. But also, just with the help of people like Without a Crystal Ball and Not Actually Golden, who run through all of the legal stuff, and it helps me a lot and informs me. Blake has written a letter now to Judge Lyman about, can you clarify basically what I can rely on in terms of proving emotional distress, because I am willing to dismiss my intentional emotional neglect and the negligent emotional distress with prejudice so that it can't come back. But I don't entirely want to dismiss this idea of I have suffered some distress, and what she's calling it, or what the legal term is garden variety distress. And I kind of looked at this term and thought, well, to me, Blake is a kind of garden variety human being. She's kind of, and that's kind of an insult to gardens, really. But garden variety, basically, and what was interesting to me, so it covers things like anxiety, stress, feeling embarrassed, you might not sleep, or you feel a bit down, or it's hard to get out of bed. And I'm not diminishing those things when I say this in relation to Blake, but I was listening to it and watching this letter, on Without a Crystal Ball as it scrolls away, and I'm reading and it thinks, wow, it almost sounds like she wants damages for hurt feelings. And, didn't Ryan say that you can't sue me for hurt feelings? It's interesting, isn't it? And that is narcissistic behaviour all over. I want it and I'm going to get it, but you can't have it, even though, yeah. But that's what struck me. So she wants damages. She wants to be able to prove this garden variety emotional distress, which, your average human being, you and I, you just have to brush those things off and get on with it if it has actually happened to you, don't you? So she wants damages for this emotional distress. So basically she wants to be able to get on the stand and do a lovely little acting piece and say how stressful it all was, and she wants to bring up some lackeys as well to back her up, and no doubt possibly Ryan Reynolds to say, oh yeah, she was tossing and turning in her sleep, and it was, the babies were being disturbed, and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't rest, and I was so worried about her, and I was worried, blah 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 blah. So she could, so apparently she wants the chance to be able to do that, because I think she realises she possibly, I bet she's kind of kicking herself in a way that she chucked in that before the other, but she still wouldn't have liked this idea of giving over her medical records or her psychiatric records or whatever it is. But there's a lot less damages as well. That if she does manage to prove those claims of garden variety emotional distress, that is, if the judge allows her to enter any evidence of garden variety emotional distress. And if he doesn't allow that, then that's a very interesting position, really, isn't it? Because how was she hurt, really, if she's not allowed to have any emotional distress? So it'll be interesting to see what the judge makes of that one. I kind of think he will allow her to do it, but I don't know. And I think kind of like, going back to why we all are so upset and things about this is because there's still that thing of people in the media, and even the judge himself said, I think at one point, that this is a battle of PR companies, and that's still kind of the narrative a bit. But that's the infuriating thing, I think, for the likes of us, is because, no, it's about a man that was accused of SA, SH, whatever you want to call it, and has had his life ruined, basically. It's not a PR battle. He has to find a way to get his life back. You can't just bandy accusations of SA about in this day and age without it absolutely decimating your whole life. And that is not a PR campaign that you're wanting to fight. It's like, how do I get my life back? How do I go back to my job? How do I function? I've lost my agent. Third of the world believes that I've done this thing to her because she looks great on camera and she's wealthy and entitled and has powerful people behind her. It's for him. He's been forced into it. That's the thing. All along, he's been forced into a PR battle about it. He didn't want to be in a battle of any kind at all about it. And I think this is what infuriates us, really, when people try to belittle it and diminish it when it's had such massive impact on him. And I presume he's still in Hawaii or wherever, keeping a low profile, and she's off at Chanel and whatever she's doing, claiming that how many stories has there been that the entire case has been quashed? And it's not. That's how kind of out of touch and how much the narrative wants to swing that way. So it's important that we can keep having our voices and keep chipping away at things and keep letting him know that he is supported, that there are people out there. And I'm thinking back over some of the promo interviews for It Ends With Us, thinking how is she, this idea of how is she going to prove emotional distress at all. And I was looking at some of the old clips and remembering some of the things. There was definitely one clip of an It Ends With Us promo, where she was being interviewed, where she said she was very lucky to have the amount of authorship or creative input that she did have on the film. So she's acknowledging there that she did get an awful lot of authorship, creative control. She's not saying I fought for it or anything like that. She's saying I was lucky what she means was I cleverly extorted him. And don't forget, there was the other interview where she kind of says, when asked about how she can relate to Lily and such as that, the character, that she said she was lucky in that nothing like that had ever happened to her. She'd not experienced it. So that's why she had to put more of herself into the role and affect the wardrobe and everything like that, So I think if they're clever about this, it's like I was saying to somebody in my comments today, in hindsight, I think actually his point of view, his side of the story, Justin's, works better as a defence than it does as an attack. I think it will be more powerful as a defence going forward. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think the only real worry is if she jacks in her case altogether. Although I assume he can still go forward with the points remaining that he's allowed to. But yeah, other than that, I think it's still early days, and that deposition hasn't happened yet. And if she does actually show up, she's going to get an awful big wake-up call, isn't she? Because that's not going to be pleasant. It's going to go on for hours. It's not going to feel comfortable. It's going to give her a taste of what it will be like in court, and it will be under oath as well. And you can imagine how gleefully Bryan Freedman will remind her of that, and what kind of a threat that is. So yeah, I think that was all I was going to say today. I think the only other thing, the only kind of worry for me, is if it does go to court and what they may utilise, is that, Justin has said he has some neurodivergence, and we're not really sure what that is. But the thing that I'm thinking is, if it's that thing of, he will have witnessed how Blake talks and how, what's the right word, a bit crass, a bit rude and blunt, like the with teeth stuff and, all the stuff, And I think people with neurodivergence, depending on how it affects them, can often kind of copy or mimic. So he may have said things, the odd thing off the cuff or in the moment, that he thought gelled with Blake's way of being, but she may turn it to be something else, or try and put a spin on it that it was out of order in some way. I'm sure there is times where he has said it looks sexy or it looks hot or whatever. And another was that accusation where part of the accusation was there was some kind of thing that they said that when the young Lily and Ryle had done a scene, that Justin had said something along the line. I can't remember where it came from, but it was an allegation somewhere that he had gone to them and said, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but it looked natural, or it looked like you'd rehearsed it or something. However it was worded, it was a bit like, ee. But I think that is where neurodivergence can sometimes come across like that. There's a naivety to it. And it can be made to look one way when it wasn't that at all, when it was somebody trying to praise and trying to put it in the right way, and trying to do it in a way in which the other, because that's basically saying it just looked so natural, it looked so real, it almost had you been practicing. When you just see that in words, without any tone of voice, without any context, without any being able to see what somebody's body language was, whether they looked a bit creepy in the face or whatever it is, it can be taken a number of different ways. And that's kind of one of the only weaknesses I think he has from a point of view of the defence. But then again, he'll get the chance to, I guess, bring up experts in his form of neurodivergence, whatever that is. And Blake now, because of dropping, this is why we need to find out from the judge what he's going to allow in terms of this emotional distress angle. Because if she'd stuck with her original claim, she could have had all of the expert witnesses or a psychiatrist or her own thing and all of that, and she could have had testimony towards the likely effects on her. But there's a good chance now that she won't be able to do any of that. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit whispery. I'll adjust it when I'm editing and try and make it louder, but I'm trying not to. I'm staying with friends for a little while and helping out, so I'm trying not to disrupt the household and still try and work and help out with some dogs and stuff like that. So over the next videos you might see me in some different places and whispering or trying not to be heard, because not everybody wants to know about the whole Blake Lively legal drama. And actually what I find really, really interesting is that the number of, because I'm right passionate about it, as many people watching out there are, but what's really surprised me, because I mean, I'm kind of in touch with movies and what's going on in cinema and TV and stuff. Not as much as I used to be. But I just have been assuming that everybody knew who Blake Lively was. Or had an idea as well of what was happening. But the amount of people I've kind of gone to talk about this to that just literally do not know who Blake Lively is has been really interesting to me. So I thought, well, she's not as big a deal as she thinks she is. It's like, I probably say don't get me started on this, because if I start having to explain to you who Blake is and then who Justin is and then what this lawsuit is about. But yeah, she's not the big I am that, she's not, what I'm trying to say is she's not universally known. She's not as important as she thinks she is. She's important in her own mind and in her own life. But she's definitely not as big a deal in her career and in the public focus. This has actually elevated her game in a way. All of this has made her known. And it's like I say, she has always been looking for that legacy. She's tried a bit of this, she's tried a bit of that, she's tried to be a fashion mogul, she's got a booze brand, she's got a soft drink brand when she doesn't drink alcohol, so it's fine. She's got a hair care brand. She tried to have Preserve. She tried to be Martha Stewart. She's been looking all along for how do I fit in, and now she's found this new thing of being a survivor, of being the supporter of women and girls, and has, standing with these 19 organisations in support of the rights of women and girls. This is her new thing. It just remains to be seen how successful that will be long term. All right, so that's me wrapped up for today. I'm going to try and keep abreast of everything, but I'm going to be a bit more scattered because I'm not at home. I've got other things going on. I've got to try and work at the same time. I'm going to try my best to keep across it because I'm really interested in it, and I like this little conversation that we've got going and people that are chipping in, and it's all really interesting and supportive, and it reminds us that this thing is not just about a PR battle. It's affecting all sorts of things, and there's a lot of people involved who are having to listen to this that are genuine survivors that are sick to the back teeth of her particularly. All right, so please do hit that like, subscribe and share if you can, and drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear how you're feeling, if you've got your head around it all, and what your own thoughts are too. All right, I will see you later.